Welcome back, everyone. My name is Dr. Latha Palnitban, co-founder of the Stanford Center for Asian Health Research and Education, CARE. We had an energizing morning with a keynote by Dr. Lloyd Minor, Dean of the Stanford School of Medicine, and opening remarks by Dr. Michelle Berry, Senior Associate Dean of Global Health. Our public health and data sessions this morning were expertly moderated by Santa Clara County Public Health Officer Sarah Cody and Stanford Professor of Medicine, Dr. Nigam Shah. We had panelists and attendees from all over the globe, putting our minds together to share and learn from one another to find the best way through the next phase of our global pandemic. Now, I would like to introduce CARE board member, Mr. Vivek Kular. Mr. Kular is CEO of Clearfly Communications and has been a generous supporter of CARE through the years. His generous support has allowed us to fund seed grants in Asian health across disease areas. We thank him for making connections across the country and around the globe for us to improve our global public health. Welcome, Mr. Kular.
Thank you, Latha. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce Professor Karim Lakhani of Harvard Business School. Professor Lakhani specializes in technology management, innovation, digital transformation, and artificial intelligence. He is the co-director of the Laboratory for Innovation Science at Harvard. I had the pleasure of attending Professor Lakhani's case discussion on Moderna a few months ago. I was very impressed by his insights into how Moderna developed an effective vaccine for the COVID pandemic just in a matter of hours and was able to get it to market in a matter of months. Professor Lakhani has distilled the technical and leadership challenges that Moderna overcame into important lessons for leaders in health sciences. We are very fortunate to have him join us today. Without further ado, Dr. Lakhani.
Hi, I'm Karim Lakhani from Harvard University. Thank you so much for the invitation to come talk to you about some work I've been doing on Moderna, the drug company that has launched an mRNA-based vaccine for the COVID crisis. A little bit about my background, first of all. So I'm a faculty member at the Harvard Business School, and I'm also the founder and co-director of the Laboratory for Innovation and Science at Harvard. My research attacks three themes. The first is on the science of science, how collaboration and evaluation of ideas happens in the sciences. And I've been using Harvard Medical School and the faculty there as partners where we run a whole range of randomized controlled trials on issues about how collaborations form, how we think about various types of evaluation mechanisms, and how they impact outcomes. I've been doing a lot of work also on crowdsourcing, so we rely on random people from around the world to help us innovate in biology, in life sciences, in computer science, and AI. Here I've had partners like NASA, Harvard Medical School, and the Broad Institute. And then finally, a lot of research also on digital transformation and the rise of AI. Most recently, I finished a book called Competing in the Age of AI, which really tries to help us understand how technology and platforms are changing the ways in which we run our companies, impacting both our business models and also our operating models, how we think about scale, scope, and learning. But let's now first talk about cases. So, Harvard Business School is known for the case method. In the case method, we go spend time with the company, understand how they work, interview a lot of people, and then we write that up as a way for students to learn. I had the chance to complete a case in the fall of last year on Moderna. Just a bit of disclosure, I've been a key opinion leader with them, a paid key opinion leader with them on bringing to forth concepts that we have raised in the book here on Competing in the Age of AI, specifically around the AI factory. And then also, I'm an academic partner Flagship Pioneering, which is a company that formed Moderna. So just so you understand my disclosures and my potential conflicts of interest. So what I'm going to do with you is sort of go through sort of what I think are the 7 key lessons as it comes to Moderna, and what we all can learn from them, and we as researchers in the life sciences, in the health sciences, what we can learn from them. The first lesson, which actually comes from the co-founder of Moderna and the founder of Flagship Pioneering, is from Nubar Afin, which is only unreasonable people accomplish unreasonable things. In other words, we can't expect reasonable people to accomplish unreasonable things. And this is a very profound thing, because Flagship and Moderna were really set up to ask very big what-if questions and not be constrained by having an immediate answer in the next 6 months, 9 months, 18 months. And this what-if approach, in this case, taking pretty much a defunct science of mRNA and saying, could we in fact figure out how to get the body to make drugs for us instead of injecting drugs externally? And what would that do is quite interesting and quite new. But the idea that we need to be bold, we need to be unreasonable about our expectations of ourselves and what the science can do, and then to use that as a jumping point in our aspirations is for me quite important. So unreasonable people accomplishing unreasonable things, to me, is the first lesson. The second lesson is that once you set up this big bad goal, how will you get there? And they are very systematic about thinking backwards. This thinking backwards process was a 10-year process. You think backwards, you start from the end goal, and then you figure out all the experiments you need to be running in order for you to be able to get to the end goal. And so this backwards thinking allows you to sort of figure out, what do I need to prove today? What do I need to prove today to get me to the next step, and then the next step, and the next step, in order for me to get to my very unreasonable goal. So both setting unreasonable goals and then thinking backwards, but moving forwards experimentally is core to their success, I believe. The third lesson I would sort of say is sort of build the enterprise with experienced and cross-functional teams and leaders. Here, what we saw happen at Moderna is that the leadership had deep background in pharmaceutical manufacturing when that was needed, had deep background in mRNA science, had deep background in lipid nanoparticles, had deep background in data and AI, and they all came together to go figure this out. The CEO actually had no background in biomedicine or biotechnology. The chief digital officer also did not have any experience in that, but they were good leaders who could work with the scientists, work with the manufacturing folks, work with the clinical folks, and build this enterprise together. The fourth lesson is actually, again, profound. You saw that a hint of that in the case description, where they said, we're a technology company that happens to do biology. And this view of themselves as a tech company doing biology is very interesting, because they basically built an AI-first operation, and they made tremendous investments in data and the data infrastructure. Stefan Bancel, the CEO, told me that in the early days, he was employee number one of the company. And what he told me is that he remembers in the early days of Moderna, walking into one of the scientists' offices and looking at a vast screen of spreadsheets where the scientist was literally copying, ACTGs from one cell to another cell in a different spreadsheet. And he was very proud of all the macros he had set up. And Stefan was horrified, because he knew that if there was some transposition error, copy-paste error from one spreadsheet to the next spreadsheet, there would be 6 months of science laid to waste. So he invested massively in the digital infrastructure, making sure that all activities, all processes were digitized and available from research to clinical to manufacturing to operations. And this has been a core factor for their success. And, the story is that they were able to get their FDA application in 42 days from the time that the virus was put out on the internet. The sequence was put on the internet to them submitting the first application into the FDA. The actual time to design the virus, the vaccine itself, actually only took 4 hours. So it's remarkable what you can do once you sort of invest in the technology. The other aspect here related to the technology is building a platform. So these guys were a bit crazy. They decided we're not going to do one drug and one disease. We're going to do 22. Which is which runs counter to how the biotech industry has been set up and how investors think about biotech industries. And what they felt was that mRNA was a platform technology, where if you learn how to do mRNA in one disease category, you could easily do a second category, the third category, the fourth category. This platform thinking was a major source of advantage for them, because all their prior work that they had done, even in vaccines, in terms of Zika and MERS and SARS, they could actually bring it over to COVID. But also, they were doing some work in cancer, and they had a manufacturing and assembly line in cancer, so they could literally reuse that same assembly line to actually manufacture the COVID vaccine. And so this again sort of gives you this technology company mentality of building platforms, driving for reusability, but enabling learning across the various applications, in this case, drug candidates, instead of each program running its own silo and working away this way. They also invested a ton in digital manufacturing. So if you went to their pilot plant, which was initially set up to do 300,000 doses a year, and now has been scaled up because of the pandemic to millions of doses a year. What you saw was a fully automated process, which actually connected the R&D function in Cambridge to the plant in Norwood, Massachusetts. And this connection was quite interesting, because literally the scientists who were doing bench R&D could in fact put an order in on the web browser, and the plant would manufacture their mRNA stuff. I'm a social scientist, so I think of this as stuff, the materials, and then send it back. But the whole process is digital. There's no paper, and they've really done a tremendous job to think about manufacturing as a core asset, especially in an uncertain science around manufacturing of mRNAs. We know there's a lot of interest in mRNA vaccines, but you can see how this is a core thing. And then the final lesson is to leverage public and private partnerships. These guys were really good at working with the NIH. In fact, Fauci's team was critical with them as they did their prior work on SARS and MERS. And they were basically gaming out what a pandemic would look like around the coronavirus. And unfortunately, all of us got hit globally. So I hope that this perspective on Moderna has been helpful to you. I think there's a ton we as scholars can learn, we in the academy can learn about how to organize ourselves and how to make the best use of digital technologies, add it with leadership, add it with vision, and then of course, process improvement. Thank you very much. And hopefully one of these days, I'll be able to visit you at Stanford itself. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Professor Lakhani. It was an incredibly special treat to get an insider view on the greatest vaccine success of the modern world.